Welcome to DubLife Diaries, the podcast where passion meets the open road. I'm Joe Person, your host, and also a lifelong dubber. Buckle up, because this ride is just beginning. This podcast is sponsored by Volksmania magazine. Good times, great cars, awesome Volksmaniacs. Visit Volksmania.com to learn more about this class-leading VW magazine. All right, welcome back to DubLife Diaries, the podcast where the Volkswagen culture, the stories, and the legends come alive. Today, buckle up because we are diving into a wild ride through the world of Volkswagen with a guest who has lived it from some different angles. It's going to be interesting. He's a second-generation Canadian, a 310S licensed technician raised in a family shop built on German air-cooled roots. He's gone from sweeping the floors to spinning wrenches to running his own VW garages. He's even sat across from VW of Canada's CEO. And we're going to touch on that a little bit later, too. He's seen the brand at its best. He's even seen it at its absolute worst. We're talking small shop loyalty, dealership disasters, and corporate decisions that would make you want to throw a torque wrench halfway across the bay. Our guest today is none other than Nick Weidelich. Did I get it right?
Pretty close. Weidelich.
Weidelich.
Not too
Thank
far.
you, sir. Thank you, sir. He's got the kind of raw stories that could fill a book, that could fill a TV series, or better yet, could fill up DubLife Diaries podcast. This one's going to be for the true enthusiasts, the cult followers, the skeptics, and anyone who's ever asked themselves, what the hell happened to the heart and soul of VW? Nick, welcome to DubLife Diaries.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
What's up, brother? What's up, man?
Oh, not too much. Living the Canadian dream, you know.
Yeah. We're going to talk about some of that here. Before we dive too deep, let me jump in and thank some of my sponsors here right up front. Volksmania magazine, as most of you know, I feel they're the flyest VW magazine on the face of the planet. Why? The quality and the people. Volksmania.com. You can use DubLife 10 at checkout. That's DUBLIFE, the number 10 at checkout. Unfortunately, this is U.S. subscribers only. That'll get 10% off of their subscription. Shout out to Salty Dub. Salty Dub from the beach to the bay. Salty Dub is tearing up the VW scene with epic VW events and swag. SaltyDub.com. Cool enough, the same discount code will work on any merch that they have. DubLife 10% off merch at checkout. Last shout out, my buddy Chris White, Riverbank Customs. This guy's out of Pell City, Alabama. Man, pretty awesome Volkswagen dude. Just the stand-up guy, all about the scene. Great person all around. He's Riverbank Customs on YouTube. Make sure you go check him out. Give him a follow, a subscribe. Riverbank Customs, they got it going on. Chris White, all right, my friend. Back to you. It's all about you now. It's all about you. It's your time. Your time.
That's good. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So let's talk right here from your childhood. We're going to start there. All right. What was it like growing up around a VW shop with your father?
Sure. Well, I mean, from a very young age, I got to see kind of the ins and outs of the business. It's certainly where I grew up. It's where my dad taught me how to be a man. I mean, I got to witness my very German father physically throw a customer out the front door once every couple of weeks or so, only for the customer to come back a few days or weeks later, apologize, and still get work done on the car. It really was the kind of the Wild West.
Wow.
And I mean, I started out as this little curly-haired kid kind of doing his homework, kind of watching this all go down. You know what I mean?
What are some of like the most early, I guess, air-cooled memories that really kind of stuck with you when you were young?
100%. My dad was like the air-cooled man. He was one of the few people kind of in this area still working on air-cooled stuff. He was
What was his
always
name?
Klaus.
Klaus?
Klaus Weidelich. He doesn't get more German than that, you know?
Right on, man. I'm looking for my beer stein.
He had a few, yeah. He was always super happy when the old air-cooled stuff came in. I mean, I guess back then when I started, they were a little more common. It was crazy. He'd be like working on something and you'd hear one go by. It's an air-cooled Volkswagen if you know what to listen for. But he'd be like, without even looking up, oh, that's a 1200, that's a 1600. It's someone like me, I don't know, man. They all kind of sound the same. I remember we had one guy came in, he just snapped a fan belt. He just happened to be kind of driving by. He was never really a customer before or anything like that. And my dad grabbed one. He had it just laying on the shelf, threw it on. And guy's like, oh, was super happy. And he said, what do I owe you? And he laughed at him and he's like, I had fun. Get out of here. He loved it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. How did dad's maybe his roots or his, German training maybe influence the way that he worked, maybe even the way that he taught you?
Sure. He taught me, he believed in a very simple business strategy. He offered just good quality service at a fair price. And we were in a position where like our house was paid off, the business was paid off, we had very low overhead costs. So we could basically undercut everyone in town, give everyone a fair deal. We didn't bother negotiating with people because we knew you can shop around all you want. Like you're not going to find it any cheaper than us. He was a tough man, but he was fair. A lot of people like who came in and challenged him and things like that. He wouldn't stand for that at all. But like, money wise, absolute straight shooter, and that's certainly translated through to me. As for teaching me to actually work on cars, that man demanded perfection. If I messed something up early on in my career or just, something not ideal, he wouldn't hesitate to let me have an earful. When he started yelling in German, like you knew to like watch out. I guess work ethic too. I mean, like, some of the technicians I've worked with later, they need their like every 2 hours, need a break, things like that. I don't know. Back then, like you got there, you started working. If there wasn't a chance for lunch, you don't get a lunch, man. You just keep going. I mean, he'd make fun of you if you stopped or demanded a coffee break or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, these kids today, brother, they don't yeah, I know. I laugh too because I have a bunch of them. It's just different.
Yep.
It's a different world now, but I like that where he came from and what he was saying. I come from the same background, like, nah, you work till the job's done.
Right.
And that's like, we were raised, I'm sure you and I are probably similar in age, but we were raised to, you work sick, you work hurt. It sucks to work hurt, but you do it, right? You don't not show up. That team's counting on you, that person, that whatever, right? So, I that resonates with me for sure. But for you, like, when did you realize? At what age? Maybe I'll rephrase that. At what age did you realize? Okay, this isn't just Dad's world, meaning automotive. This is also going to be my path too.
The age where I kind of was like going to pursue a career was probably at 18. I started working there maybe 14 or so, after school, things like that. So like I said, started sweeping the floor and things like that. But it started out as a punishment. And I wasn't getting along with my mom or something like that. Or got suspended from school or something like that. Well, I'm going to be spending that time at the shop. So it started out as a punishment. It wasn't like, yippee ki yay, I
Wow.
definitely want to do this for a living. It started out as no, you did something wrong. You're going to go work that off at the shop. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Um,
Cool.
we kind of I came in maybe the tail end of the Mark II era. There were still Mark IIs coming into our shop. Obviously, we get like kind of the out of warranty stuff like that. Maybe when I
Well,
started kind of really knowing what I was doing, Mark IIIs were slowly kind of disappearing.
okay.
And I'd say I found my footing definitely in the Mark IV era. I had to push my dad to get VAGCOM. He didn't believe in computers. I don't think he ever learned how to turn one on or never done a Google search in his life or anything like that. But obviously, Mark IV timing belts turned out to be a great moneymaker and things like that. That really helped the business. Some a little more complicated diag that my dad wasn't super comfortable with. I mean, you got to understand, he was trained to work on rear wheel drive, rear engine, air cooled Volkswagens, and now we're front engine, front wheel drive, water cooled, even diesel.
Yeah.
He kept up pretty well right until the tail end of the Mark III era. The Mark IVs, he used to start kind of telling people, well, this new stuff. I kind of brought the business out of the Stone Age in kind of that sense, and multiple people have kind of credited me with that. But my
Right.
dad kind of had enough at the end of the Mark IIIs.
Yeah. Understandable. Well, as the technology increased, if the training didn't, then you can't keep up, right? It starts to introduce a many levels of things that you just don't understand. You look at it, you're like, I don't know, right?
Yep, 100%.
As the technology increases.
But we
So
don't have factory training or anything. You got to figure it out on the fly. You know what I mean?
so you guys had all kinds of customers coming in, both enthusiasts and, just I guess more or less regular customers. your dad probably dealt more with the air-cooled style enthusiasts, and then everything kind of maybe started to shift toward you and maybe the rest of the team as the technology stuff came back.
Absolutely, 100%. Like I mentioned, like electronics, like my dad, I never seen my dad use a multimeter,
Right. Okay.
anything like that. He never really used VADCOM when we had it. I think I bought our first VADCOM cable and just started showing up and doing stuff. And well, it obviously helped. I mean, what we're gonna do? An ABS light comes on and like we're sitting there scratching our heads, and that was ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like you got to be able to fix cars, man.
Any wild
Um,
any wild repair stories or anything that stands out from your early days as a kid there?
yeah, there. There's one. I remember you mentioned you're going to ask me this question. I had to pick one, and I'd have to call it what we affectionately called the 10-foot tranny drop. So we had one other guy that worked with us. He doesn't want his name mentioned in this, but yeah, he was changing an automatic on a Mark II. And my dad went out to like, he's running a business. He had to go to the bank and things like that. And he's underneath the car. There's going to be just two of us kind of haul it out because we didn't have a tranny jack. And he got it kind of wedged between the subframe and the engine in a really kind of precarious spot. It looked like it could drop at any time. So he took a step back and said, okay, we're going to wait for Klaus here. And, so my dad comes back in, like, what's going on? Why isn't this thing on the ground, And like, well, Klaus is kind of stuck. Well, he's like, what are you doing? He grabs a pry bar. He's still in like his nice clothes from going to the bank, grabs a pry bar, gives that this thing drops 10 feet, shatters on the ground, automatic fluid everywhere.
Oh,
Yeah, and he's like, clean this up and get back to work. And he goes into his office and starts doing some paperwork.
the
If I had to
task.
pick one, that'd be my favorite for sure.
Yeah, cool memory. When I put this together, I in the timeline, you had talked about a dealership maybe outside of working for the family. Did you start working at a dealership? I remember there was something that you had said that you mentioned that your family or the family always thought that the dealerships had all the special tools and training. And
Yep.
then the reality when you got there was what?
The first dealership I ended up working for was not a Volkswagen dealership. We'll say just a Korean brand. And the only reason I took that job was to kind of get my foot in the door because that dealer group was building multiple VW dealerships at the time. The idea was if I did okay there, they'll make me a major part of the new dealership or whatever. But from day one, they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. At least I will say you're American. From what I've seen of American dealerships, they seem to have a much better grasp of what's going on. From what I've seen of Canadian dealerships, absolutely not a clue. Within my first month there, so I'm still kind of getting used to just being a service advisor at a dealership, using the dealer management service and things like that. And my manager had to leave for CPR training on the same day that the advisor who was training me booked off. So it was just me. And even that day, the parts guy decided to quit, like no show quit. It was just me, just me. And we know what? We got absolutely everything done. I figured it out. And the next day, I see the vice president, the guy who hired me, standing behind my desk. I thought, okay, at least I'll get an attaboy out of all this, right? His only question to me was why we weren't pushing the complimentary car washes.
Dang.
His only question.
Yeah, overlook the fact that you did it all yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. We had what I called the BP oil spill in my first month there. You kind of have to pump from your oil caddy to like the waste oil bin outside. It goes through a wall and it's middle of winter. It's cold, the door's closed. And there's no way of knowing if this thing's full. So this apprentice hooks up his airline and he, pumped his whole oil caddy, which ended up all over the back parking lot.
Oh,
My service manager comes out and he's scooping oil-filled snow into like milk crates, which are like they have holes in them. Like this isn't doing anything. The next day it was sunny out and it all melted across the parking lot again. So we spent the day cleaning it and then we had to do it all over again.
oh man.
So it became I walked into this job thinking I've been told my whole life, the dealership, man, they got it all kind of figured. There's always that disconnect between
This is it. This
dealerships
is
and
it.
small
This is what
shops.
I remember. Yes, this is what I
Yep,
wanted to touch on. Yes. Okay.
for
Yeah.
sure. I came in, I wore like a nice shirt every day. I wore a tie. I did not fit in early on. Like I was that weirdo that's actually taking this job seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Right.
It took me a little while to kind of settle in with people. I eventually did, but Just certainly not what I was expecting at all. The other biggest thing was their reliance on a dealer management service. This is incredible how much dealerships rely on this. And all it really is invoicing software. I always just assumed the dealerships ran their own systems. It's incredible how much they rely on them. There's only a few different options. An advisor that works for, let's say, one company could easily move to another dealership with that same dealer management service. It's difficult if it's a different one.
Okay.
No, I suggested multiple times when I worked for Volkswagen, Volkswagen should run its own proprietary software, because if you don't, you would spend all this time training an advisor who can just as easily, go to another dealership.
Right.
You're training your own competition because nobody stays at a dealership that long nowadays. Very high turnover rate. You know what I mean? At the very least, if you train them on VW systems, you're only really good to be plug and play at another VW dealership. And it's crazy how much money they spend on. Did you guys ever hear about the CDK thing that happened recently?
Mm-mm.
So the CDK was one of the bigger ones that they use. And it's one that we used at the VW dealership I worked at. It's archaic. I mean, you have to enter
It's
in
software. It's customer management
it's what you
software.
interact. It's what you use to make receipts, essentially. Like
Right.
that's
Okay.
really what it does. The
Right.
salespeople use it. The service staff uses it.
Yeah.
Anyway, they got hacked,
Uh-oh.
and basically as like a ransom thing. Either pay the ransom or when the dealerships were down, everyone was freaking out. Like production came to a halt for all these dealerships running CDK, and
Damn.
that kind of opened the door to realize that you can't ignore this anymore. Like you're so reliant on this third party, and you're spending so much money on them. Why couldn't you just build your own? I mean,
Right.
if a dealership's paying 9,000, for instance, dollars Canadian a month to run this, I mean, any dealership would be happy to pay, say, $2,000 to Volkswagen, not to a third party.
Right.
At the very least, you're responsible for your own software. There's no somebody else. If they mess up, well, it takes your whole dealer network down. I mean, that's insane to think about. It's like the first thing you learn is, we're going to teach you whatever dealer management service we're dealing with here.
So break down
that's
for
not-
me the dynamic of us versus them versus management versus customer.
So Volkswagen loves to say, we are all Volkswagen. But that's not really the case, and they do absolutely nothing to enforce that. The way dealerships are structured, everyone has their own priorities and their own goals that they're set out to achieve. It almost seems like the higher you go in the company, the less they know about kind of what's going on at the ground level.
Crazy.
I would say that maybe like 25, 30 years ago, a potential career path for someone could be, getting a job as a detailer out of high school. And then, maybe you prove you're not useless and they put you in the shop for a bit and you become a licensed tech. And then maybe you're the foreman, service manager comes up, they give you that. And then, a few years of that, maybe a corporate level job comes up and you can apply for it and you'll get it. That used to be a career path. So at very least, people who had a working knowledge of how the business worked from the ground up had influence at corporate. That's
Right.
not the case anymore. If you look at how VW hires and what they're looking for business graduates. They're looking for people with business degrees and things like that. The spreadsheet warriors,
Right.
and it's not working.
Wow.
You can see it; it's not working. I mean, from the top down, from the what was the famous statement? The roof is on fire from one of the Volkswagen CEOs. It's not working, and you're seeing that not work. Volkswagen loves to describe itself as kind of their internal slogan or whatever they tell their staff is, "We're a quirky car brand with a cult following."
Right.
That cult following is the enthusiast.
I've heard that exact
Sure.
statement before. Yeah.
100%. But what does Volkswagen do for those enthusiasts? I mean, a few dealerships have a little car show once a year, maybe. That's it. There's nothing for them at a dealership. I see enthusiasts spend all the money in the world on their Volkswagen, but they can't put that money back into the brand. The dealer has nothing for them. They call them the dealership. I mean, if you're on Vortex or something like that, the dealership is a pretty common saying, and for good reason.
I'm not one to stir the pot or anything, but I have to say, I'm down here in Central Florida, West Coast. I'm an enthusiast, St. Pete, Tampa, Clearwater area. And me and my buddy Alan, we put together a few shows a year. They have 100 to 400 cars in that range, depending on what show. And here's the point. I've actually physically myself gone in person and called over the phone and reached out to all the Volkswagen dealers in the area just to get some support, maybe even some sponsorship dollars to come and invest back in Volkswagen and come hang out with all your people for the day, And yeah, man, I get shut down at the corporate conversation. it doesn't match this, it doesn't match that. But they get shut down always by some, regional, divisional manager, etc. that can't. And I'm not here to throw shade. Maybe they will support us eventually, or maybe we just have to approach it different, or maybe we have to have more cars show up. I'm not sure. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. I think it's a great idea for them. And I remember years ago, they did here locally, just like I'm sure you remember. They used to, Volkswagen dealerships, I know they're privately owned, most of them, but I know they used to have, extra, whatever it would be, advertising or extra, budget to afford stuff like that. And now they don't. It's almost shunned on.
Yep.
It's like, nah, man, we got these sales guys and that's it, right? Like, can our sales guys come there and sell cars? It's like, that's all they care about. It's like, dang, y'all are missing the mark, because there's a whole bunch of us, in the air cooled side that you guys could come and entertain. And look, I got 3 kids right now that are driving. I got 3 kids that have cars. I could have bought a Volkswagen for all 3 of them. Right?
Yep.
If it was more of that, I don't know. So anyway, I don't want to take away your thunder. I don't want to take away your thunder.
100%. It's funny you mentioned that. The dealership I worked at, they had a lot of old VW like ads, like those big posters with the Beetle and stuff like that up. So I started, I was the only one who seemed to care about them. So I started reading a few of them, and one of them said, showing the Beetle, and it says, we would never squash the bug. Well, they did. Not once, they did it twice now.
Funny.
So they got kind of far away from, their roots.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. And have they stepped away from their roots? And obviously, that answer would be yes.
Like that, I would say from what I've seen of corporate, like that's not even a concern on their mind. Like they're still staring at the spreadsheets, thinking that if they stare at them long enough,
they're going to change.
There's going to be a car company that comes out of this, and there hasn't. I would say going to AVF. I mean, Volkswagen of America at least showed up there and was asking people their opinions, which I thought was pretty good. The problem I thought they had was there was nowhere for anybody to like write anything. Like, this is what I think you should do. And you could even run that through AI and see what keeps coming up, something like that. Every question they asked was on a scale of 1 to 5, blah, 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 blah. That's something that's going to be put into a spreadsheet, and it's going to be overanalyzed by people who don't really know what to do with that information. If everyone says, 0 out of 5, Volkswagen is not doing what it should be doing, that's great. But then what direction do you go in?
Is it kind of just almost like, what am I trying to say? Like there's like a Tasmanian devil effect. Is that kind of what the us versus them versus the manager versus the customer? Like, is that what that is? Like, what is that?
That's more of the corporate side. Like I'm more relating that to like the product they come out with. Right?
Okay.
Like it's not, they haven't built anything we as enthusiasts really want in the last.
Gotcha.
You could argue maybe the 7.5.
Gotcha.
7.5, GTI, Golf R, things like that. Like you could maybe argue that was not too bad. I think the Mark 8 isn't a very good looking car. The problems we've seen with them already aren't so great. I mean, you think about the ID Buzz, right? They pushed and pushed and pushed this silly ID Buzz. The new version, the reason, like, let's say the new Beetle was so successful is because, I know you air-cooled guys aren't going to like this. It could do everything that the old Beetle could do, arguably better. If you want to go fast, it came in a 1.8T. If you want to get fuel economy, it came in a TDI. If your daughter thought it was cute, a 2-liter is a fine option for them. So now you're like, all these years later, you're trying to do this with the original bus. And the best you can come out with is an electric car. Well, you can't follow the Grateful Dead around in an electric car. I'm sorry, it's not there yet. And at the price point, I mean, who's buying this? I mean, like the old buses were at a price point, of course, taking inflation into account, that the old hippies could afford it.
Right.
We're starting at like what, $80,000 Canadian for an ID Buzz that doesn't have a heater pump. Wow. And in Canada, you're going to want that heater pump. Like the price is already going up. You know what I mean?
So that's an
add-on. Yeah, that's an add-on. It's not good.
You had mentioned something else about how the pay structure, because you're on, the side of it that kind of behind the scenes. What was it about the pay structure that would pit everybody against each other? So
the most obvious would be easy to understand. It'd be the commission-based sales staff. You only have a certain number of people walking through the door. making calls. They have like a priority thing that loops for like who's the next salesperson up, things like that. Service advisors are bonused on either like hours sold per RO or dollars sold per RO is kind of the newer way. So you have to sit next to and get along with the person next to you that wants the good high paying appointments just like you do. If there's a 60K and an oil change coming in at the same time, you want to be the advisor that checks in the 60K. Things can
Sure.
get tense when one advisor thinks that they're getting one or the other, or a customer that regularly leaves bad reviews for no reason
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
versus the one that, goes out of their way you know, to make sure that they get a good survey, which can affect their paycheck. As a service manager, I was bonused on the entire department's performance, but I also had, KPI, key performance indicator targets
Yeah.
that need to be hit. And it's really hard to go to your staff and say, hey, can you go out of your way to do this so that I can look good in front of my boss, even though you are not getting paid for that?
Mm.
Upper
Yeah.
management loves to tell, like people above me love to tell staff, oh, that's what the base salary of your pay is for. But if you work at a dealership, don't ever let them tell you that. Your salary was negotiated with the set number of responsibilities. If you are adding to those responsibilities without adding pay, you are taking advantage of your employees. And you get that pushback. It's there. They might not say it right to the general manager, but like you can talk to me. Like I made sure my staff always knows. Like just be real with me and talk to me and stuff like that. So I got a lot of those conversations.
Right.
Flat rate technicians are the same thing, right? And you've got oil change in a 60K coming in. That flat rate tech wants the 60K because he's going to make more money on it. So if
Right.
you got everyone in your dealership competing for who's coming in the door and you're wondering why you don't have that family atmosphere, I mean, your paycheck relies on it. The base salaries, that's an unlivable wage. You need that bonus money to justify getting out of bed in the morning.
You know,
You know?
that happened in the trades too. Plumbing, electrical, HVAC, mainly, top three. Because, well, really, it's happened in really anything home services, right? Where performance pay is really naturally what it's called. The better you perform, the more money you make. Well, the flip side to that is the better you can sell and communicate, the more money you can make. Well, the flip side to that is the guys that are very good mechanics might not be the best communicators. So they can fix it better than anybody in the room and they're never going to get any callbacks or anything, but they can't sell it. They can't sell themselves. They're not confident, right? And I bet that also happens, on your side of it where the customer's coming to them, in automotive. But for what you're saying, I've seen that actually happen inside of companies in the trades where some guys that might not be the best technicians are making way more money than the guys that are certifiably with the best results and the best data. They're the best mechanics, the best technicians, the guys that you want to send them out to your family's house, when stuff's going awry, but those guys don't make the money.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. There's being a good technician and there's being a good flat rate technician.
Yeah.
A lot of it
Interesting.
overlap, but I mean, if you kind of know how to play it, you're going to make more money than the guy next to you. VW technicians have their own Facebook group. I'm a part of it, and I'm sure kind of outing them is going to get me kicked off of it. But here's how bad it got. So Volkswagen, first of all, they love to change the repair procedure without telling anyone. They expect you to read through it every single time to make sure that there's no changes, which I mean, for a CP job, a customer pay job, that's one thing. For a warranty job, you're already like getting paid less, and you expect them to read through this whole repair procedure and make sure they didn't add a part or add something like that.
Right.
They talk about that a lot on their little Facebook group. And they used to have a field technician on there who technically works for corporate, and he saw that the technicians found a faster way to do something. So you think that would be all well and good, but what they did was, then once they got wind of that and they determined, okay, that's a legitimate repair, it's a legitimate way to do that, they dropped the warranty rate even further. So
Ah,
if you think about this, if a job pays 3 hours, warranty pays 2 hours, you found a faster way. Now warranty's only paying an hour and a half. That whole time, you're expecting your customers to pay that full 3 hour. Well, that's not really fair to anybody, is it?
no, doesn't sound it.
No. It was what I think I mentioned this at some point here, but like I think the state of Arizona, they they wanted to ban that practice, having a different warranty rate than a customer pay rate,
Mm.
and Volkswagen ended up trying to sue them.
Wow.
You can Google that. It's pretty. It was thrown out almost immediately, but it just shows kind of the mentality of like dealership, corporate, mid management, corporate, and then the good old overlords that kind of oversee all of it. It's not great. It's a
So
hard environment to make money in.
at some point in your career, had sat
Yeah,
down or shaken hands with or met with Pierre Boutin, which is VW of Canada's CEO. Walk me through that experience. Like, bring me up to speed. Where were you at in your life? How did that happen? And what was that experience like?
sure. So that when I met him at this conference where essentially they were unveiling the ID Buzz to the sales staff. They had a few little workshops for the service people and things like that. They kept talking all these emails you get about how, poorly the company's doing financially and things like that. And they put us up in this super fancy hotel room in Toronto. We had Rick Mercer, if you know who that is, perform for us. That was pretty cool. But the actual one-on-one interaction I had with him was very quick. He kind of snuck up on me while we were eating. Hello, nice to meet you. Good to have you here. Shook hands. He seemed like a very nice man. What stuck with me more was the speech he gave to the whole company kind of later on, and I'll talk more about that in kind of the next part here. But he also came to the dealership. He came to our dealership once. I'm not sure why. We were in the process of building a new dealership kind of directly behind our current dealership. That was kind of a mess. I had to be a manager through that. And he was kind of there to, I guess, to oversee the last little part and kind of get a little bit of feedback back and forth. He seemed like a very nice man, very smart man, but he was talking all about how Volkswagen's going to like take over and the EV game. And I mean, certainly, that hasn't ever come close to happening. They showed all these charts about how they're going to overtake Tesla and it's coming. The ID4 and the ID Buzz, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah, lower the price point, and there's some possibility there for sure. But I just don't think I'm okay with ID Buzz. Am I a giant fan of it? Not a giant fan. And I think the price point would be probably the only reason. Is it cool to have that type of technology in, a new age looking bus? Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. And there's a lot of opinions that circulate around it. But here's the sad truth. And this is the whole reason why I brought this up. It just didn't do as well as they thought it was going to do. And that's just it, right? Some cars come out and that happens, might happen with the electric Mustang. It might happen with, the electric Camaro. I don't even know if they have one, but I'm just, just,
Yeah.
just saying some car names, but it truly just did not match their expectations. And we all, I don't know, any fans, we thought it was going to. You working for them. By the way, how long did you work for Volkswagen?
2 years.
A few years?
2 years as a service manager, yeah.
Okay. As a service, I mean, you saw a lot come through. And
We
then
did.
how long were you
A bit-
how long were you at your dad's shop into then your own shop? Like, just real quick before we jump into this next segment, just kind of paint the picture of your career up to now.
Sure. So, like I mentioned, I started out as like a teenager, kind of sweeping the floor at my dad's shop.
Right.
I was running the place when I was, let's say, 24 to 27-ish or so, right around when my father passed away. Me going to the dealership, that was my turning to the dark side moment.
Okay.
We were always the alternative and things like that. I worked there for a couple of years. Yeah. Kind of after my dad passed away, I helped start another local VW shop for a little while. They were mostly into like dismantling. They buy a whole Volkswagen, dismantle it, sell the parts, things like that. They were looking to get into service, got them up and running, and service manager for 2 years. And now after, when that didn't pan out the way we thought it would, now I'm with my guy who was my apprentice while I was running my father's shop. Now me and him started another shop kind of right down the street from where my dad's shop was.
Okay.
So it's kind of come full circle there.
And you're doing mainly Volkswagen stuff, or is this just a mechanical shop? You do everything.
I try to like any kind of VW Audi stuff that comes in that typically goes to me, but we're technically a complete Euro shop.
Okay. So
We
you're
do some odd Japanese and American stuff. We specialize in for sure European stuff.
back to VW. VW
Yep.
calls itself this quirky, this cult like brand. And I know your feelings on this. I know you feel they've lost touch with that. It's this quirky cult style brand, but Tell me why.
I feel like Volkswagen quirky used to mean, just kind of a car that was a little bit different, but you always got good value for what you were paying. Like for the amount of money you paid for the car, you can feel confident in it. You got good value for the amount of money you paid. And I mean, that has gone completely out the window. I mean, it's not even close to what it used to be. Like people make fun of me for saying, Mark IVs were probably the greatest generation, like let's say financially, that Volkswagen's ever had. I mean, the Beetle sales were through the roof. You could tell people to go buy a Golf or a Jetta and feel confident at any point in Mark IV's really kind of phase their life cycle. I mean, I certainly started seeing up here in Canada with salt on. We use salt on the roads to get rid of snow and things like that. I saw my first bit of like rust bubbles and things like that on Mark V's before I ever saw them on Mark IV's. And you had a lot of options. Right now, it's like every single model it comes in one engine, and that's it. I know diesel's going to probably never be a thing back here in North America, but like a lot of people have said, wasn't there a diesel Tiguan? Those would have sold like hotcakes.
Why didn't they make a freaking gas engine bus? That would have sold like hotcakes.
Sure.
You know?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Maybe they will. I don't know. All right.
It seems like any of these IDs they're going to stick to electric, and they're still from the latest kind of news I've got is like they're sticking to it. They're all absolutely happy with this. They're thrilled with themselves, but it's not panning out, man, and everyone sees that.
So we're gonna get touchy now. We're gonna talk
Yeah.
about some good stuff here because Dieselgate, to those that know, is probably one of the biggest scandals in automotive history ever in the world. You've got a decent perspective on this because, well, you were on the inside. Oh man, this could get deep. But tell me, like, how did this play out from the ground level, from a mechanic or a technician level? Because from what I understand, right? I mean, you can probably tell me more, but from what I understand of Dieselgate, they found a way to manipulate the computer system when the cars are being tested through emissions, correct? So what
Yeah,
would
the car knew it was
they,
being tested. Exactly.
yeah, so they would change the emissions to a more controlled or regulated number, but it wasn't true. Apparently the emissions were a lot worse. The carbon, just the whatever, all the pollutants were a lot worse. And then, well, they were obviously caught for that. What was that? 2015? When was that?
2015 is when it was announced was 2015. Yep. If
Okay.
you notice, like if you do see TDIs around, there was like some 2014s got the newer engine, and all 2015s that you see had like fully that next kind of generation. I'm not sure exactly what month the cutoff was, and then that's it. So the 2014, 2015, that they're kind of like an oddball TDI. They're kind of their own little animal, and then like that was it.
So that's all I know of Dieselgate. So again, I want to know from your perspective as a technician, a Volkswagen technician, how this played out on the ground. But I also want your perspective on what Dieselgate was to you.
Absolutely. So when Dieselgate kind of hit, I was still working for my father's shop, so I was the trusted local small VW garage down the street. I got all kinds of stories coming from the dealer of just like people lined up outside the door, ready to just tear a strip off that poor service advisor or whatever, that salesperson that sold them the car. Like they didn't design the car, they didn't do this.
Right.
There's a lot of people came to me asking for advice, right? That you had the option of taking the buyout, and Volkswagen was very generous with like, okay, we'll buy the car back, no problem. And they were very generous with the offers that they were giving, or you could get the fix done and continue driving. You take they got I'm sorry money. One of my best friends bought a 2012 Jetta. He went through this whole thing. He took the I'm sorry money and then he deleted the car. So he got the fix done and then deleted. I mean, he's
Yeah,
still
I was
driving.
going to say, isn't, especially on the programming side, didn't a lot of folks for performance wipe out those standards, those emission standards anyway?
100%. You got rid of you have DPF, NOxCat, SOxCat, all that out, straight pipe, change the software. And
Yeah.
you have a better running car. They got better fuel economy than when it ever came out of the factory. But everyone who got the fix done immediately complained the car's not the same. It doesn't have the power and it doesn't have the fuel economy that it did.
Wow, man.
And then kind of the running joke I always had was like, by the time you kind of got all these cars fixed, and you take into account all the cars you took back, which if you look into it are apparently still parked in the Mojave Desert somewhere. All those people had to go get new cars. Those had to be all built. and delivered on big diesel trucks. Everything that goes into building a car, at a plant, building all of those parts, everything they had to do with the fix, coming up with the fix, installing the fix, paying the technicians for it. By the time you're done, the carbon footprint of Dieselgate was probably more than just letting this car run.
Right.
And again, they had already changed to the 2015 TDI, so that the life cycle of this engine is already over. That Volkswagen already moved on to the next thing. The
Right.
biggest thing I always ask that no one's given me an answer for is the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. It's their job to stop cars like this from getting into the country. Where were they at? Because it wasn't them that even found it. It was like these independent, college researchers that were looking into why this engine's so great. You never hear about anybody at the EPA getting fired over this. But
Right.
like what? They came here in 2009 in the late Mark Fives, up to what? Up to 20. Well, let's say 2014 for the CJAA, common rail engine. So that's 5 years, and nobody caught it. It was here this whole time. So and our tax dollars go to the EPA. Clearly, they're not doing their job very well.
Wow.
Nobody really looks into
Well,
that or says anything about it.
they probably like a chain of command. They probably get their information and their data from these certain departments and engineering at Volkswagen, and that data gets sent over, and maybe they thought they could trust that data.
I suppose. I mean, I was under the impression they had to actually physically test the cars, but
Well,
I can't confirm that for sure.
right. Well, as somebody that understands, if they would have tested it, they probably would have found it. I mean, it's probably pretty easy to see. Pretty big scandal though. And I know it really kind of messed up the brand for the new age, you know, kind of resurgence of, the Beetle came out in the late 90s and, had this successful turn into the turn of the millennium, and it almost kind of felt like for a little while that they might have been making a comeback, and then Dieselgate happens and, they kind of get kicked down again. Do you think Volkswagen's ever truly recovered maybe the trust that they lost from this scandal?
I mean, I think it's been long enough that it has been long enough that some of the advisors I worked with and stuff, they had no idea what Dieselgate was. They hear about it every now and then. So I mean, there's people working in the brand that have kind of moved past it. And the only time it really ever came up was, when there was a car that was still covered under the extended warranty. I mean, what do we have? They had an extra 4-year 80. If you got the fix done, you got an extra 4-year 80,000
I mean,
starting
that's generous.
kilometers. That is, like Volkswagen did their time, man.
Yeah, man. It's
You can say
generous.
what you will about it. Multi-billion-dollar companies do what multi-billion-dollar companies do. Toyota recently got caught cheating on emissions and even on crash test standards, but that doesn't make the mainstream media. I mean,
Right.
if you're going to put your tinfoil hat on, I'd say they were trying to push us towards EVs, right? And diesel was kind of that third option that was there. If you look around that time period, I mean, smart cars used to come in diesel. Chevy Cruze used to come in diesel, and they all weren't really advertised and quietly disappeared. Not to mention that after Dieselgate happened, the other manufacturers like BMW and Mercedes quietly pulled their diesels out of the North American market. Now you think like any other business sense, if you have your main competitor pulls out of a market, you think there'd be a gap that you want to explore. Not everyone kind of all falling back at the same time, right? And then there was the EV push immediately after. I mean, you can call it a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, but it sure seems like they all want us driving these electric cars, and it seems like electric just isn't quite there yet.
No.
The
And
market said no.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know the why behind that. There is obviously way more of them today on the road than ever before,
Yeah.
and it's happening with all of our devices and the freaking earbuds that go in our ear. It's like everywhere you look, it's small battery operated type life that we're living. I just don't know in my heart and soul, as somebody who especially is an air cooled guy, I don't know if it'll ever be as cool to have an electric vehicle that doesn't hum like an air cooled Volkswagen, man. I just don't, call it. Maybe I'm old. I'm older, and I kind of like, I don't know, a gas engine. I'm not against electric technology, just like you said. I just don't think we're there yet. I think, maybe in the future a little bit more. Who
Yeah, the
knows?
infrastructure is not there. We have no way of generating all this power and getting to the cities. If everyone switched to electric tomorrow, it's just not there.
Right. That's what they talk about a lot in the US too, about how a lot of our grids, the biggest grids in the country, are already 1950s technology. So it's not even like, the grids aren't even enough to support the demand if, like you said, if we did that, if society gave in and said, all right, we're going to do the electric car thing, and we all made the change, our whole cities would shut down and the grids would have issues. So yeah, craziness.
Not quite there. The only other thing I'll say about Dieselgate, and have you ever watched? Did you watch the Dirty Money documentary?
I don't recall.
No, that's fair. So I can't
I
believe they
may
actually did
have.
this. It was a while ago. It was years ago. I was pretty mad when I watched that. But the one thing I can't defend is when they tried to justify this Dieselgate business by hooking their tailpipes up to it. You see that the monkeys are in the little chamber. They actually did this. Volkswagen funded it. It happened in the States somewhere. But you have to wonder, like where's the win there? Let's say best case scenario, these TDI emissions are found to cure cancer in these monkeys. How is a company that has ties to Hitler going to go public with the fact that they made this great discovery by gassing and doing experiments on what they consider to be less than human? Like
Yo,
I
that's
think that says a
crazy.
lot about how disconnected they are with
Uh,
their fan base and their customer base.
let's talk about that disconnect. What do you think? I guess what is the disconnect that you see between corporate, which you did, right, as a manager, between the dealerships and then the small shops and then the enthusiasts?
Yep.
Because it's almost like they're all separate,
They
teams.
are.
Yeah.
They are. It's very rare. Like when somebody, if somebody's like, "Oh, I used to be a dealer tech." Well, okay, I got a bunch of questions for you. When you're coming from a small shop or something like that, it's it's become so compartmentalized. It seems like a lot of the technicians who have been in a dealership for long enough, they want to stay at a dealership. They don't want to go out on their own. They don't want to go to a small shop and things like that. They've kind of gotten used to that. As far as Volkswagen corporate, I mean, you see it in their product. They've completely lost touch with their own fan base, and they don't seem to have any interest in kind of rejuvenating that or rekindling that. And it starts with them, man. We've been screaming out for years, as at the top of our lungs, and they don't they don't seem to care. They don't seem to listen. They'd rather kind of run their business, kind of like I always say this, the business major way, the spreadsheet warriors. Like, oh,
Right.
on
Right.
paper this makes sense. In the real world, nobody wants this. So it's not even close. We're not there anymore. This quirky car brand with a cult following. Well, quirky isn't supposed to mean, you need a head gasket in 50,000 kilometers, you know, and, and, you know, the cult following is supposed to be enthusiasts, and you don't do anything for those enthusiasts. So how can you even call yourself that?
So let's touch on that word, because I include myself in that. I'm an enthusiast. What keeps enthusiasts so loyal to the brand despite all the missteps?
I would say hope. Maybe one day, you can. I don't see what would be so wrong or so bad with maybe like hiring a few, like whatever title you want to give them, enthusiast representatives or something like that. People who have their finger on the pulse, people who are interacting with the community and things like that, and just have that information brought to corporate, take it into account, think about it. Maybe you'll get some sales about it. I would also say the older stuff is still pretty good. I mean, everyone who can say an old air-cooled Beetle isn't a good-looking car, Who can say a good, like, Lagoon Blue GLI Mark IV isn't a good-looking car? It is.
It is.
It's
It's
it's still
part of
it's part of
automotive
the
history.
one.
They're
For
beautiful, in fact.
absolutely, 100%, and I think the older stuff sure keeps us going. I mean, again, AVF, when you go there, I mean, the stuff that keeps me coming back is, right, quite frankly, is the Mark IIs. I mean, those guys absolutely kill it. Every year I see something I haven't really seen before, and
So you really feel
fantastic.
that the loyalty is mainly built on the back of the enthusiasts that are true diehards, regardless of what, none of these guys really give a shit about the technology side of Volkswagen in the today's world, because they drive cars that are 50, 60 years old.
absolutely,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
I think the thing for sure corporate needs to understand this is that the enthusiasts, whether you like it or not, they have influence over their market. I mean, if somebody, buys a Tiguan or whatever, and they're looking for a place to go get it serviced, who do you think they're going to ask? Well, probably the guy with 4 non-running Volkswagens in their driveway, in their social circle or on their block or whatever. Whether if you go online and you see what people are saying on, whatever VW forum you want to subscribe to, whether you like it or not, they have influence over the customers they are trying to get. You can ignore the enthusiasts if you want, but the enthusiasts still have a very heavy influence over the people who definitely are your market and the people you are trying to get into your dealership to get your 60K service or your whatever done. And there's just no, they're not making the connection there. They're taught business a very certain way. I mean, I used to sit in on a lot of business classes, and I know all about the downward sloping demand curve. I know all about the power of the spreadsheets. And one thing they tell these graduates is don't let anybody tell you different. If you can sell women's clothing, you can sell deep sea drilling equipment. Every industry is the same.
Okay.
Don't listen to anybody. If you can sell one thing, you can sell anything. And then you're finding people who are getting hired by corporate, but they come from whatever steel. They come from, like I said, deep sea drilling equipment or something like that. And they're the people who are running the show now. There's nobody there who has actual, on the ground, from the ground up, worked at a dealership. Most of the people you contacted a dealership, if you look at their, their link, even their LinkedIn, they never worked in a dealership before. They came from, a business background from, somewhere completely different.
And
So how could they ever understand us?
I think what happens is over time, a company that's that size, they have enough money to try to throw it at their problems. And
Yep.
I think in a company that's this size, when they start maybe failing or not, having the same cult-like following they once did, I think they start to invest in the reasons why, and they start to hire experts in, this type of research, experts in crash research, experts in, market research, experts in demographical research, and then they start to lean on the back of experts. And then
Yep.
start to look for that same thing in the people that they hire. Oh, well, if we want to hire somebody for sales, we don't want to hire somebody for sales that's been a Volkswagen mechanic or technician their whole life that could sell freaking anything. That we're going to go for the young 21-year-old stud that's a fast talker and might be, marginally morally sound, right?
Absolutely. Like
It
I said, that's
sucks,
how they look
man.
at
It
it.
sucks, but
Exactly.
that's what they say corporate America is. It's that back and forth of, this 22-year-old who's never turned wrenches in the shop is not going to be my boss, but they are.
Like, it's not a problem that's isolated to Volkswagen for sure, but
Right.
Volkswagen sure is like, well, certainly the brand I've seen the most of, and they're become a victim of this problem too.
Yeah. Well, they have enough money to try to solve their problems. And unfortunately, I think it takes a little bit of a deeper dive. So let me ask your opinion, man, because your perspective is unique. Where is Volkswagen headed?
They're I see them as a transition, like at a transition point right now. They pushed the ID4 and they pushed the ID Buzz, and they've got disappointing results. They
Mhm.
put it in the Super Bowl ad. I actually, if you want to talk afterwards, I got some stories I can't tell on here that I'd be happy to share with you, but it would just
Okay.
be too embarrassing for the brand. But anyway, they brought this EV. They bought into this EV craze, and they did what a lot of other companies kind of try to do sometimes. They try to tell their market what they want rather than listening to what their
Ooh,
market actually wants.
ooh,
Now you can
that's
keep
big.
beating that dead horse, or you can cut your losses and get back to what used to make Volkswagen great. I mentioned for instance, the new Beetle when it came out, like absolute commercial success. Lots of different reasons to buy one. So a lot of people kind of, a lot of like they say young girls kind of grew up with them, and maybe as they got older, they kind of grew up and got out of them and things like that. But if you're going to do a throwback, it should be an improvement over the old one, not a step backwards. I
Mm,
mean, you call this, you call a Buzz a camper all you want, but like, what do they only have, like 250, 300 kilometers of range? I mean, you're not traveling across the country with that. Would you feel comfortable taking your kids out to the middle of nowhere in this thing, knowing that it could die and you might need a
no,
diesel generator to come
right,
and turn the
right,
thing
right.
off?
No,
You
man.
know, that
No, no. Yeah, so that's interesting too, right? Because from the air cooled side, as an old air cooled enthusiast, all of us, including you, know I expect problems. My car is going to break down, and that's something that I sign up for, knowing that I drive around a 62 Beetle. So it's going to fail. It's going to have problems. It's older, right? So I kind of, and it's interesting because I welcome that. Meaning, when I say I welcome that, let me dive in. I'm not going to get pissed off at the car and say, screw you, you let me down, right? Because fast forward 25, 30 years, 40 years with technology through the 80s and 90s and then into the 2000s, bringing all the way up to where we're at now. When a car breaks down on you now, you're like, dude, fuck this car. I'm going to trade it in. I'm right. That's the vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like Volkswagen enthusiasts even have thicker skin for this type of environment where the car company is going to continue to let them down, whatever that looks like. I don't know, man.
You got to do something, man.
Yeah, okay.
If the CEO is saying, if CEO of Volkswagen is saying the roof is on fire, like they did a few years ago,
Are they ever going
maybe try
to
a different strategy.
do you think they're ever going to get back to building cars that just have heart and soul and that's it?
I they certainly could. I mean, they tried their heart out at building cars the corporate way, or what makes sense on paper, small, medium, and large SUV, scale of 1 to 5 surveys. It has not worked out.
Mm,
What it was Thomas Schaefer who said let's see, Thomas Schaefer, the roof is on fire statement in 2023 and a declining stock price since 2021. It's not working, right? I mean, the cars they're building, even if the issues were covered under warranty, is showing their customers that the old VW quality just isn't there anymore.
mm,
People are seeing that and is driving them away from the brand. I would bet my heart and soul that a lot of people who are, say driving a 2023-ish Tiguan or a Taos or something like that, probably aren't going to consider a Volkswagen as their next car. They've lost faith in the brand, and honestly, I can't blame them. Can you imagine putting a head gasket on a car with 50,000 kilometers on it? That's
no,
crazy. I mean, Volkswagen didn't even really have head gaskets in like the air-cooled days, and they seem to have it all figured out by the Mark IV era. And now we're taking a step back from that. Some like, valve seal problems, things like that. Like this is something you see on Japanese cars or American stuff.
yeah, I was going to say that's the issue with some of the, I guess, repairs or the demands that technology creates, right? You make all these improvements, over improvements, keep improving, got to make it better, got to make it, more efficient, more. This is what happens when you keep doing that. And I'm okay with innovation. I'm okay with technology. I am. But I guess if you don't stop long enough to kind of wallow around in the success around you and you keep manipulating and constantly changing, then there's really never a ground floor. And I think my opinion is that's what Volkswagen needs again. They need to ground themselves. They need that ground floor again, and then work on the base of something that is successful that's working again. We're trying to change stuff every what feels like every email, every week, right?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I think it's maybe also a lot of like, a lot of these people who are designing cars and making decisions like that, they seem to bounce around a lot. Like I mentioned, Pierre Boutin is no longer the CEO of VW Canada. I think
Word.
they shipped him off to VW Ireland. And we
Oh
have
wow.
another one now. I'm not sure even the name of the current one. Like these guys seem to bounce around so much so that you can't even like go down a direction long enough before staff kind of changes and okay, this person's got this side, and we never get to a solid conclusion of anything.
That's
We just
almost
this is the best we can kind of mash up that we can do here.
and that's kind of what I'm talking about on the
For
technology
sure.
for yeah, it's from the top all the way down. So all
It
right.
has to start at the top. Yep, for
So
sure.
what if you were in charge? You know,
Absolutely.
what would you change tomorrow if you were in charge? What's the first thing you'd change?
It starts with the product. You can market, you can advertise, you can do whatever you want. It starts with the product. The first thing I would do is bring back the Golf to North America. I mean, now that's insane that you can't just buy a baseline Golf. And if you want to do a throwback like the Buzz, do the Golf. There was an AI generated image that somebody made of a retro looking Mark II version of the Mark 8. I'm sure, I mean, you've probably seen that, right? I thought
And
that was great.
yeah,
I
I've
thought
seen
that'd
a
be a great
couple.
look.
I seen one that was a Carmen Ghia too, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
oh, it was a really
Yeah, you get
cool.
excited for that.
Yeah, it was a really cool AI version. They even showed the interior with technology. I'm like, get out of here. I like when that kind of technology hits. That's kind of fun to see that and dream that up.
Absolutely. I think something like that would do very well as a Golf, right? It's still a practical car underneath, right? It's not trying to do anything different. It's just trying to be a car that maybe has a retro vibe to it. If you could do a little bit more aggressive look for the GTI and Golf R, maybe a simple naturally aspirated option for like just for the baseline Golf. But this is important: a belt-driven 2-liter T with a manual option, the GTI and R, maybe quad rounds on the R or something like that. VW does not have a great track record with, let's say, four-cylinder chains. They seem to have it all figured out in the VR. I mean, I got no problem doing chains on a car with 300,000 kilometers on it,
Right.
and it gives you lots of warning. It kind of rattles or whatever. It's not going to blow up on you like the Gen 1 TSIs did. But I'd much rather have a belt service than, and have to deal with, oh no, will my car have no compression today? It's not like some of them used to fail on shutdown. Like that was, you got to where you're going, shut it down, everything's fine. You come back, you got nothing. I mean, that was a pretty wild time. But it would also a belt-driven engine would also bring business people that like it would bring business back to the dealership. And I don't think people would have too big of a problem with that. No one seemed to have an issue getting their timing belt done. That's the first thing people told you. Oh, I bought my 180 or whatever. Find out when the timing belt was done, get it done. Not everyone can do them. That would bring business back to the dealership. And Volkswagen has proven they can build a belt-driven engine that doesn't seem to have, all kinds of crazy problems with it, or at the very least gives you a heads up when something's going to be a problem or service intervals or anything. I think that would be a great thing for the brand. I think people would definitely put eyes on the brand, definitely put eyes that, maybe have moved away from the brand back on the brand. And it would definitely people would buy it just for the look of it. And then you'd have to come back to get it serviced. I think that's a win all around.
So you mentioned in the past that you've got some wild stories from your time in the shops and in the dealerships. What can you share with me that maybe never fails to blow people's minds?
I got a few. We had we had one guy come in once in the old days when my dad was still around. In the middle of the day, he expected us to kind of drop everything and look at his car. We told him if he left the car, we could take a look at it in a bit, but that was not good enough. He kind of, he didn't like that. He kind of hung around. He was kind of bothering us. And when one of our guys went out to his car just to grab something, this guy followed him. And on his way back with whatever he was grabbing, this guy stepped in front of this guy. They started screaming at each other. And our guy leaned back and spat in this man's face.
Oh,
Now, now, how could you have a worse customer experience than that, right? They just yell at each other for a minute. Finally, this guy gets in his car, does a burnout and leaves. Not a single bad Google review, no smashed windows, never saw that dude again.
what?
Come and gone. Yeah, that was
Okay.
that was the end of that. I mean, that would not fly today, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, One time early on when I started kind of running the family business, a guy with like a newer at the time Audi Q7 came in to talk to me about working on his car. And as I'm assuring him, "Yep, absolutely no problem. We can handle whatever you need," over my shoulder, without me noticing, my apprentice had just set a car on fire while he was trying to set up some seized coilovers. Like he's trying to heat up these old Joms or
Oh,
Gracelands or
oh,
whatever they
no.
were. But the car was on fire enough that he needed a fire extinguisher.
And you're like,
Well,
everything's under
we
control,
got
sir. Don't you worry. We're gonna do this and that. In the background, there's this big fire.
Yeah, 100%. I had a
Mm.
I had a lady once I diagnosed her car, I quoted her on the repair, fixed the car, and she comes in to pay, and I guess her and her husband, they're kinda hippies or whatever, and they got these, like, holistic socks, so she's trying to trade me socks for a repair. Like, come on, socks? Like, you agreed to the price here, like, what are you trying to push these socks on me? I had a crazy homeless lady singing in my office once. After a while, she asked if she could work for me. And I said, no, but my competition down the street is hiring. And I watched her
A
like
singer.
yeah, to sing entertainment for the customers or something.
Right, right.
One Saturday after work, a guy walked into the office in coveralls and asked if we knew where we could find the Volcom Stone of Tampina. And we're all like, we had no idea what you're talking about. So of course he also asked me, oh, well, are you guys hiring?
Oh,
No, we're not hiring.
Yeah.
This dude goes out. He's like, okay, no problem. Calmly goes outside. There's all snow around. He rips off these overalls, throws them in the snowbank, and just full sprints up the street. And that was the last time we saw that dude.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Those are some wild stories.
I got maybe one. Okay, I got one more. I got
Okay.
to be careful how I word this one.
Okay.
So we had so there was two main parts companies that we used to buy off, like aftermarket or third party or whatever you want to call it. And they used to send out their parts reps. They'd give you a hard time for buying from the other guy and things like that. Oh, you should have bought off us, this and that. Well, probably the most respectable company, their parts rep started kind of coming around and saying some odd stuff and things like that. I mean, I messed with him. I asked about 2-liter turbo, like TSI timing chain tools, and told him I found a better deal off the Cool Truck, which really shouldn't happen. And he said, no, 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 mine's AST. AST is a good tool brand if you don't know. I guarantee the one you bought's not. And when it showed up, sure enough, it wasn't. I still use them today. They were fine tools. But I printed out an AST sticker and I put it on it. So when he came, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It says AST right there. Well, this guy gets on the phone and he's screaming at somebody. How did he find this for this cheap? That's less than what we get it for. Anyway, this guy kind of went crazy. While still being employed for the company, and to his credit, this was right before COVID. He said a pandemic was coming. I gotta give him credit for that. And he called the pandemic was coming. He
Wow,
said
dude.
it's gonna be the end of the world and blah 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 blah. And you have to eat his special jam. If you don't eat his special jam, you're not gonna make it into the new world or something like that.
Was it like
But
gummy berry juice or something?
I never saw it. He never offered it to me. He must have thought I was, not somebody he wanted in his new world or
Yeah.
whatever was going on.
Yeah. You
So
made it outside of the circle, Greg.
that's he went to the competition. He went to the people he told me not to buy parts off of, and he's like, "Yo, man, you and your family, you have to you have to eat my special jam here." So
What
I
the
phoned.
crap, dude? It was, all right.
I know.
That's true.
So I phoned the parts company and I told them, like, your parts reps running around telling everyone to eat like special jam here. And I got the nicest guy in the world. He'd be a parts guy at one of the VW dealers nearby. He's the most non-confrontational person ever. I was hoping to get someone a little bit more fired up. And I was like, look, he's going around telling everyone he needs a special jam to save their lives. But he never came to me. He went to your competition because he clearly wants your competition around, but he never came to me. Do I not get to be a part of your new world? Do you not want my business? And I'm just being a jerk, And this poor, oh yeah, we know he's saying that. He's technically my boss, so I can't really do anything about it. So I'm really
Oh my
sorry, Nick.
goodness, dude. What in the hell? I want to know what
Yeah,
was in that jelly.
I want nothing to do with the special jam. We made it through COVID.
Yeah.
Uh,
I wonder what was in it, And he predicted the
he
pandemic.
said a world-ending pandemic was coming. I got to give him that.
Pretty
He was
nuts.
right that a pandemic was coming. There's
Yeah.
a little bit more to that story, but I don't think I want to share that publicly.
You never saw him again?
He was the rep for like a few more weeks. He kept coming around. He kept talking a little bit crazier and a little bit crazier, and
Did he get
he
COVID
never.
by chance?
What's that?
Did he
Did
get
he have
COVID?
COVID? I don't know. I don't know if he made it. I won't say anymore. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's fast forward a little bit. If you were to write a book or a TV series on all the experience that you have on Volkswagen, what would the title be?
Service line one. I
Ooh,
kind of promised somebody that would be the title, and I kind of like it. Few people I pitched it to thought it was pretty good. I need a little bit of help. Like I don't know. I tried kind of writing all these stories down, and it's just story, 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 story. I need some help to like make it a show, make it a
I got some rapid fire questions. All right.
do it.
These are questions that demand somewhat of a fast answer. And like I say all the time, if a story comes out of it, cool. But if it doesn't, also cool. It's all good, right? Okay. You ready?
Yep.
All right. First rapid fire question. Air cooled or water cooled if you had to choose one?
Water cooled, but with a healthy respect for the air cooled stuff.
Okay. Okay. All good. All good. Favorite VW model of all time?
I gotta go with the Corrado, man. My first car.
Wow.
I don't think they've made anything quite as good looking as the Corrado to me. A little bit of ahead of its time, like a
Yeah.
pop up spoiler. I mean, that's
I remember it.
It was fantastic.
I'm smiling. All
Maybe
right.
not with a G60 anymore. I don't know.
How about least favorite car? Well, least favorite model, that VW model that you ever worked on?
Hands down, Eurovans. I don't
Eurovan.
understand them. I don't get them. They're just kind of their own animal. They came in those weird 5 cylinders. They came in that diesel. That was a little bit different, if I remember right. They were an odd one to work on for sure. You had to know what you were doing, and I didn't work on enough of them to really be an expert on them.
All right. How about this one? Most underrated, not overrated, underrated VW engine.
Too slow. Hands down, too slow. Everyone says you can't make power out of them, this and that, but like, man, you got a solid, good running car that's going to get you from A to B, and if anything goes wrong with it, you can easily repair it.
How about opposite end of that spectrum? Most overhyped. Most
Oh,
overhyped.
W8. W8. Hands down, W8.
W8.
Why do the kids talk about it? Like, oh, that's a Passat W8. Oh my goodness. And you get into them, they're not fast. They're not reliable. They're horrible to work on. If you want a V8 in a VW product, I mean, I almost hate to say this too, but the 4.2 is a far better engine that comes in an Audi, in my opinion. I did change them one not too long ago. I mean, it's a hell of a job, but I'll take that over a W8 any day.
My wife has an A5. We love the Audi. I think it
Your
just
4.2?
it's a 2 liter. No, dude.
Oh, 2-liter turbo, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be sick. An 8 and that little thing.
Well,
Uh,
the S4s, the early S4s came in them, and that
mhm.
was that V8.
That's a beautiful sounding car as it leaves you.
Yeah.
They're quick too. We like it. We like it. She loves it. I like a old, like my smoked meats, low and slow.
I
That's how I
gotcha.
like to roll. All right, how about this one? Dream road trip. Any car, any VW, any year. Where are you going and what car are you taking?
Oof. I have to. This be an odd one to say, but I'll say the Rialta, if you know what that is. The big camper thing they made with the VR6 in it. I
Ooh.
think that's perfect. You got everything you need with you. You don't need to stay in hotels. It's got everything you need. It's okay to work on. They weren't too bad. It's got everything you need. Where to go? I'll come down to where you are, man.
Hey man,
I'll come down to
Tennessee
I'll come
Pete.
down to Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah,
come to
for
the
sure.
beach. We'll have you come to the beach. And we got
I
some
love
pretty
going to the
cool
States,
stuff.
man.
I might put you to
Everyone
work.
in the States are so nice. We're supposed to be the polite Canadians. Whenever I go to the States, everyone is way nicer than they are up here. Like hands down. I feel like I
Hey,
get on a plane or do a road trip, everyone's nicer by the time I get off the plane or, get to where I'm going.
especially if you come here. Why? Because, well, we're like kind of like a hospitality kind of capital. Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, this kind of west coast of Florida, central Florida, little segment. Clearwater is probably, the top rated beaches in the world. St. Pete
Yep.
Beach is among probably in the top 5 beaches in the world. And then the tourism here is off the chain. So it's kind of like this melting pot of people. So what you're saying is very accurate. They're very nice. They're very nice here. They're very accommodating. Because it's almost like, what can I think compare it to? It would be like, for tourism purposes, it would be like a Dubai where, the tourism actually drives the community. So when you're a tourist and you're at these tourist attractions, everybody's nice. Yeah, that's good service. That's what we do down here. I grew up like that.
For sure. That's Southern hospitality. I mean, everyone here in
Yeah.
Ontario seems like everyone's very adversarial. I don't know. Maybe it's the cold. I don't know. I can't figure it out, but everyone's
Name,
super nice. I go to Georgia every year for AVF, and everyone's super nice down there. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're from Canada? Really? From Canada?" They got a million questions for you. You're
sure, sure.
borderline
Tell
celebrity.
me about your health care.
Oh, that's the first thing that comes. How do you like your free healthcare?
Yeah.
First of all, it's not free, and you pay for it in your taxes. And if you need it, it's not there. And that sums up our
Oh,
healthcare in a
oh,
nutshell.
so
I'd
it
move to the
sounds like
States in a
ours.
heartbeat.
Yeah, sounds like ours then. All right.
Mm.
On that note, what's harder to fix? A bad design or bad management?
Management, management sets the mentality for everyone else, right? You got one
Period.
manager who's not great. He affects everyone who's kind of under that umbrella.
Yeah.
Designs change all the time. We see designs change all the time for better or for worse. But, let's say this kind of looming thing that we keep talking about Volkswagen that seems to have them like, in a just perpetual downturn is, it's a management problem. Management needs to acknowledge that, first of all, needs to acknowledge that there's an issue and come up with a plan to fix it. And they don't seem to do that.
Do you guys in the Ontario market there, do you guys have VW shows like for old
Oh, yeah.
cars? And do you go to any of them?
I do not go to any Canadian shows anymore.
Okay.
I mean, literally, ABF is the only show I even like consider going to.
Okay.
It's not my vibe. It's not my scene anymore. They're like, I don't know. They get a little rowdier here, which is fine if that's what you want. But it seems like it's the same cars. Everybody feels like they already know everything. I don't know. It's just I don't have a good time there anymore. I don't want to mention any shows specifically because I'll get some backlash for it. But
All
it's
good.
not what it used to be. I used to have a blast. There's like the longest running kind of air cooled show around here. There was the Jitterbug in Niagara Falls and the Bug Out, which isn't too far from me. I haven't been in a long time, but I've heard numbers are kind of dwindling, unfortunately.
Bad. Yeah, it's too bad, man.
They're disappearing. There used to be a lot more common. You used to see them on the streets a lot. Now it's like, oh man, you see a bus going by. Like, what is this guy doing?
Right. Yeah, that kind of adds to, I don't know. To me, it's like it makes it cooler. It makes me want more, right? But your perspective is accurate. As these cars are getting older and the people that own them are getting older and even dying off, there's less attraction toward these older cars. So what's happening, and you see it all the time now, is you'll see a car that was maybe frame off restored 25 years ago that's sat for the last 15 years. And it's, all its spots and whatever, it's, a lot of the shit's come back and, rust, and it hasn't run and it's locked up. And so, you can find them and get good pricing on them. Anyway, man, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole yet again. Tell me this. Give me some advice for young technicians that are entering the automotive industry that don't have any bad habits yet, that, haven't seen the corruption, that haven't seen Dieselgate, that haven't had to deal with the customers / the problems. What's advice that you have for them?
Besides, don't do this for a living.
What if they want to? What if they want to?
I know.
They're like you. They love working with their hands. Yeah.
I got a kid actually works with me now. And like, this is kind of the big advice that I try to instill in him is do not let those tool truck people plunge you into debt early in your career.
Ooh.
Buy some cheaper tools. Like you guys have Harbor Freight. We have Princess Auto.
Yeah.
Stock up on that. You have one of everything. As you break them, if you notice there's something you're breaking a fair bit, because they all have lifetime warranty anyway.
Right.
You keep
Even
breaking
Harbor
something.
Freight, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna hook you up too, man. They're great, and I agree with you. Yeah. No, that's good
100%.
advice.
As
Good
you
advice.
start, once you notice what you're using and what you're breaking, then you can buy the expensive stuff. Let those tool truck guys get you.
Rewind the clock to the late 90s, finishing high school. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I go and take a class for marine mechanics at the Clearwater P-Tech campus here, and I start working on boats. A week or so on my new job as a marine rigger, I had completed 350 hours through this course. I got certified. I got a job, and I started working. I'm 3 weeks in the field, and here comes the Snap-on truck. Yo, dude. So now, I'm 6 months in. The Snap-on truck's getting like $240 a week out of my check. I'm only making $800 a week minus taxes or, whatever back then. Slave driving, 20 hours overtime a week, etc. And this dude's getting, a quarter of my check, maybe a little more. So when you said that, I just kind of smiled inside. I'm like, those damn tool trucks. Good advice though.
That's what they're trained to do. I mean, anytime you want to ask about something, oh, I can't tell you. You have to come on the truck. Get you on the truck. You start looking at things. That's what they're trained to do. Yeah. They tell these young guys all the time, like, oh man, if you're going to be a professional, if you're going to be taken seriously, and you have to buy my Snap-on toolbox, or you have to buy my actual.
Oh my!
You get a lot mostly from the Snap-on guys. I don't want to rag on them too much, but
right.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Always seems to be the Snap-on guy telling you how your career is going to go. Like, this is the stepping point that's going to launch your career into the stratosphere. if you, pay me $50 a week for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
Well,
I remember those days as a struggling technician, hoping for the best, and I'm spending buku bucks on basic hand tools. Yeah, but anyway, listen, man, this has been awesome. I appreciate you sharing your decades of experience and insider perspective with us. If anybody wants to get in touch with you or anything like that, I can put your information in the notes of the podcast. But yeah, any enthusiasts, if anybody wants to touch base, do you have any shout outs or anything that you want to give to anybody? This would be a right time.
one shout out, Andy and Val that I met at AVF. They're from Puerto Rico. I'm from Canada. We meet in the middle in the States every year.
Cool.
They're great people. We look forward to seeing them. Other than that,
What if anybody wants to get in touch with you? Are you on social media? Are you on Instagram? Are you or are you just like, hey, nah, I'm good. I'll stay behind the scenes.
no, Wolfgang Stein on Instagram. Always happy to meet new people. It's not a problem.
Say it again.
Wolfgang Stein with a 3.
Wolf Gangstein with a 3. Spell it.
Yep. WOLFGANGST3IN.
Okay, got it. Cool, man. And that's a wrap for this episode of DubLife Diaries. Thanks for riding along with us and diving into these incredible stories of the people in the dubs that drive their dreams. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe or hit that follow button so you never miss an adventure. Do you have a story to tell or know somebody else who's living the dub life? Awesome! Reach out to us. You can find us on all socials at DubLife Diaries or shoot me an email. I'm not hard to find. DubLifeDiaries@gmail.com. Until next time, keep the engines humming and the wheels turning, and always follow the road that inspires you. This is Joe Person. I'm signing off. I'll catch you on the next ride.